Hello everyone, I wanted to show you some new updates to the No Limits 2 roller coaster control panel. I've done a complete rewrite of the program since the last time you guys have seen an update. Just to let you guys know, there is currently a bug in the current version of the PLC IDE for the Arduino Opta PLC that I'm using inside of this. If you have anything that uses Ethernet at the time, which unfortunately No Limits 2 does, it will actually crash after about every 10 to 30 seconds. It just constantly reboot. Waiting on a runtime update to fix that. But all the code is there. Everything was tested prior to the runtime update. Everything seems to function. And on this video, the source code will be attached for both the Opta PLC along with the HMI and the modified No Limits 2 client library that you would need if your Opta is a Ethernet only Opta such as mine. I'm going to go ahead and go over the virtual mode since I've made some more realism improvements. Let me go ahead and turn it on. As you can see, I've added a few things to the back of it. I now have a power port, a USB port for programming the Ethernet, and a Ethernet jack, which is used to connect the panel to a network, which can then be able to reach No Limits 2. So let's turn it on. It'll take a few minutes for everything to boot up. Again, there is a UniFi Dream Machine Ultra inside of the casing, which is used to connect the PLC to the HMI. You could use anything. I prefer to use some type of router. You could use a UniFi device. You could use a Microtech. You could throw a Linksys in there if you wanted to. Doesn't matter as long as there's some kind of device in there to separate them out. Once everything fully boots up, everything will pop up on the screen. That's normal. The UniFi router hasn't booted up yet. There we go. Everything's coming through. All of the functions that I have programmed in here also pretty much will follow over to the No Limits 2. Currently with No Limits 2, you do have to turn the panel on. You have to go through the startup sequence. The ride has to be enabled and the lift has to be started to be able to be dispatched. If the ride is stopped or the startup sequence hasn't been completed, if you connect to No Limits 2, it'll just send an e-stop, basically stopping all movement inside No Limits 2. But as you can see, basically the same screen as last time, but a little more functionality than what I had previously. Now the total dispatches is a retained value, so if the panel loses power, that will be retained. I do have some other things in here. As you can see, I can push my dispatch buttons and they will light up to indicate that I'm pushing the buttons. There's some things I've already programmed into the panel, but I do not actually have them built yet, such as more realism mode. So if I go under the main menu, I have a few more menus. I have a ride startup menu, a block check menu, error displays, operator select, where you can enable remote operators for such as a co-dispatch or 2, 3, 4 additional buttons. I've only got it programmed for 4. This is functioning. I just don't have any other buttons actually built and put into a case yet. I'm going to drill another Ethernet port into the panel so you could operate it in a dual dispatch function. If I go back to the main menu, again, this is stylized after B&M, so if you see there is no push button indicators for your remote operators. If I go to the remote operator screen and enable, and then go back to the home screen, now I have push button indicators to let me know that those buttons are now enabled and they must be pressed before dispatch can happen. I'm going to go back and turn those off. So under One of the new screens I now have, I have a daily total screen. This works in the virtual mode, would work for the real roller coaster mode, for the model that I'm still building, and it would work for No Limits too. So you see we have a breakdown from midnight to 11 p.m. and it will track our riders per hour and our trains per hour. So we'll have these. These will reset at about 3 a.m. I believe. No, these do not reset. They just get overwritten as the next day comes along. Actually, at 3 a.m., after 3 a.m., everything past 3 a.m. resets. But at 3 a.m., anything that was run will function. Let's see, what else we got? Now I do have, let's go to the maintenance menu. We're going to put the panel in the standalone mode so I can use it with some virtual trains. So we got to start the panel up first. Let's add virtual train 1, 2, and 3. So now you can see my virtual trains are on the storage tracks. So now we have to start the panel up before we can do anything. There is now a daily test that is functional that does reset at 3 a.m. the same time consign and B&M panels operate. So we're going to turn the panel on. We'll get a lamp test. We're going to go into the ride startup screen. Turn the panel on. Verify everything's working. So our lamp test is functioning. We're going to acknowledge. This is where it differs from a real panel because I've got it locked out until the daily test is complete. So you do have to go to the daily test screen. At the daily test screen, you have to press and hold your HMI enable and then press begin daily test. Once that's done, you have to press every button on the screen. So the e-stop lockout, the e-stop button, e-stop reset, ride start, ride stop, lift start, lift stop, just to test they all function. Once that's done, our daily test has been completed. And this is a retained value. So if I turn the panel off and it loses power and I turn it back on, it will be retained. This resets at 3 a.m. So now I can finish the startup sequence. Press and hold for my startup warning 1. Release the button, wait 5 seconds. My startup warning delay has completed. So now I can press again. Now I can trigger my e-stop reset, my ride start, and my lift start. Now I'm fully enabled. So now we're going to put it in transfer. We're going to go to the simulated transfer screen. We're going to change this to storage 1. Hold our HMI enable, and we're going to reverse our train 1 onto the transfer. My original program for this was done with timers. It's actually, I've wrote a physics engine into it this time to move the virtual trains. So there's some wonkiness with them moving around, but it works perfect for the most part. So now I can put it back into the run selection, change it back to auto, and now the train will go up the lift. Once it clears the transfer, I can put it back into transfer. Once it's in transfer, it will stop moving, so it will be paused on the transfer. So let's add the second train, storage 2, reverse the train. Change it back to the run position. Go back into auto mode. As you see, it will continue on. This one will stay in the transfer. This is modeled after Fury 325's block design. So typically after like 60 seconds, if you've ever ridden Fury 325, it would be around the time that the train goes under the bridge. That's when it signals that it's okay for the train on the transfer to automatically engage the lift. So now our block indicator is flashing, telling us it's waiting. I'll go back to the main menu. As you can see, now it's going onto the lift. I do also have this. I have a block check screen, so I could go in and hold train at block break. So as soon as the train reaches, it will go into the block and it will park. Ignore this because I don't have my warning message currently put in place yet, so the box is off. I'm still working on that. So as you can see, the train is now parked in the block. Our lift is turned off and will not let us start because our next block section is occupied. So when we clear the block, the lift is still off. And as on a real coaster, once you start the lift, if there is a train on the lift, as you can see, it says ride is in automatic mode, lift is not running, it will sound the startup alarm again. Now it will continue off of the lift. So we're going to go back to transfer. We're going to add our third train in. Now that we're back on our operation screen, as you can see, we got a train waiting to be advanced into the station. So I will press and hold. As you can see, restraints are clear, as in not locked, because there's no train in the station. So I'm going to press and hold my dispatch buttons while the train advances. So the train parked, and it would do its automatic unlock sequence. This is a warning message. I do have a physics engine running, so it will do some random times from the lift to the block break. If it's under 60 seconds, I believe, you'll get this warning. There's a different warning that will come up for train too slow if it takes too long. I gotta start it again because it didn't clear the block. So now when I press the lock button, as you see, they all lock. Now here's another change that I've made to make it like it was before, or like a real coaster would be. I have to hold my restraint button, and if I click one of the rows, it unlocks only that row. If I let go, it goes back to the lock status. And then I have a release all. And then I do have as you can see, my gate indicators. I can open or close them. I can add riders to my account, and I can dispatch trains. So as soon as I dispatch, you see my dispatches will go up. It counted my people. I keep my button held down, and my next train advances into the station. I also have programmed in, right now there is only one, it is a test. I do have fault conditions, so hold on a second. So as you can see, I do have it to where it can trigger faults. Faults will trigger a ride stop, so all motion will stop. As you can see, it's stuck between the main and the block break station. Train is stuck on the lift. I can go to my error display. I do have an alarm manager, as you can see. And just like on the real ones, I can click up here to silence the alarm if the maintenance enable key is not enabled, and if I was to push the acknowledge button, it will unsilence the alarm. Once I put it in maintenance enable and acknowledge, the status is cleared. It was only for 43 seconds, and you see it occurred once, or the first occurrence of it. I do have one more thing I need to program here. There is the legend. So green means the e-stops are not pressed. Red would indicate one currently pressed. and yellow would indicate the last one pressed after an e-stop is reset. I do not currently have the last press programmed, so as you can see, if I hit my e-stop, I'll get an e-stop trigger, and that will take me there. If I pull it out, I can reset my statuses. And again, if I was to hit an e-stop, I can also click here to get a shortcut to the e-stop push button screen. As I stated, a lot of this is also programmed into the No Limits 2 mode, which I do have programmed into here. You can just enable this, type in the IP address of the PC, where the No Limits 2 telemetry client would be running. And then that will feed that into the sketch, so the sketch code knows how to connect to the client. And then a lot of this other stuff will function in the No Limits 2, but again, there is currently a runtime bug. But that is an overview of the virtual mode, the new features that are also tied into the No Limits 2 mode. Sorry, I can't demonstrate the No Limits 2 mode at this time, just due to the PLC update bug. Once there's a new version of the software out, I will be able to get that running. Again, as you can see, I've got my people counters, my restraints, tells me what train is parked in the station, lift to block time in seconds. I've got my people, current dispatches, and then as soon as that says 9 o'clock, it is currently 8:43 on the Eastern time. So as soon as that says 9 o'clock, the daily total screen, as you can see, it's currently 9 o'clock. Those numbers will feed into this section. But that's all I have at this time.